Welcome to Brainstorm MTG. I'm ELD, and this is Fast Effect Double Speed Magic the Gathering, this time vintage from Scholars Games in Brockton, Massachusetts. And Dredge here hitting a Serum Powder in Game 1, allowing for a free mulligan there. And that 7-card hand has double Bizarre Baghdad. That is going to allow for a lot of dredging here. We'll see what John's able to do, also on a very explosive deck here in Paradoxical Outcome. Discarding 3 cards, Unmask, pitching Prized Amalgam, and we've got some goodies here. Brainstorm, Merchant Scroll, Preordain, Mana Crypt, Mox Pearl, and could be a Chain of Vapor or a Paradoxical Outcome. Can't quite tell the second card in from the front there. Brainstorm being grabbed. Merchant Scroll, a very dangerous card here. Can grab Paradoxical Outcome or Ancestral Recall. Maybe counting on a turn 2 win here. Brainstorm, such a powerful effect. Really finding 3 cards at the same speed as Ancestral Recall. Who you put back, often not that big a deal. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's just as good as Ancestral, and in some decks even better. Putting back a Tinker target, for example. And here we go, off to the races with Bizarre Baghdad, hitting a Narcomoeba. And full value Dredge here, a pair of Grave Trolls, so there's going to be 12 cards during the upkeep, and likely another 6 during the draw step for 18 cards right out of the gate here. That hits Narcomoeba times 2. Most of the way there for assembling a Dread Return kill. And going to see what happens here. Bizarre Baghdad triggering Bloodghast. So 3 bodies online. Dread Return will be a live card here. Prized Amalgam. Into the graveyard. Discarding 3. Not sure how that was stacked. Ideally, what you want to be doing there is playing the Bizarre Baghdad, triggering the Bloodghast, and then responding with the dredging. That will give you a chance to actually get that Prized Amalgam into play. Sacrificing the 3 creatures to a Dread Return, and we'll see what the best target is here. Elesh Norn coming in with a fistful of zombies. 2 Bridge from Belows means 6 zombies. Ball Therapy happening. That is going to clear the way. Oh, so he has a Paradoxical Outcome. And then another Therapy takes care of that. So Chain of Vapor left in hand, which is still a problematic card that can get rid of the Elesh Norn. And converting into some extra damage in the short term here with Icarid, sacrificing 3 zombie tokens to get 2 back. Missing on the Mana Crypt. And definite lethal here without the Chain of Vapor. The Chain of Vapor will turn this into what looks like 13 damage. If there's only 1 Icarid in there. Bloodghast potentially going to be able to join the party with a Dakmar salvage, but he will not add to the damage this turn unless he's sacrificed as part of some type of Dread Return. At this point, counting the graveyard, trying to think about possible outs. Cards like Ancestral Recall could potentially lead like Ancestral into Wheel of Fortune. You don't want to just lose games that you absolutely have locked up. $12 damage coming in after Elesh Norn has bounced way beyond lethal. If you don't get rid of Elesh Norn, but of course, no better target right now for that Chain of Vapor. Interesting to see if it... I mean, there's definitely a risk here in not bouncing your own Mana Crypt. He could have bounced his Mana Crypt, sacrificed his Underground Sea. That would have avoided the trigger here. But Demonic Tutor comes off the top. So that die roll, very friendly. Really given some life here. And two options. He's got Paradoxical Outcome or Time Twister to consider. Twister gonna draw more cards, but would effectively cost more mana. Paradoxical Outcome actually going to be generating mana, and that Mana Crypt is going to float 2, and then he'll be able to get 4 more mana from those artifacts. So Demonic Tutor, a really good rip here. Three blue, 2 colorless. And John going to try and make this work. Going to 1 blue mana. Paradoxical Outcome. Bombs away, drawing 3 cards. We see Force of Will, Island, and nothing of value there. So dodged a bullet there. Nearly stolen back with that incredible top deck of Demonic Tutor. Really, John could have won with a variety of different outcomes there. Wheel of Fortune would have pushed very close to lethal in terms of actually making Dredge run out of cards. There was about 11 or 12 cards left on the library, being able to play around Ancestral and Wheel. That could have potentially been part of a strategy. Of course, he could have just comboed out from there as well. The deck's so dangerous. Another Paradoxical Outcome there. Would have been able to continue the chain. Sideboarding, it does provide some real problems for Dredge. Now, Paradoxical Outcome can use its graveyard as a resource. Yawgmoth's Will, super powerful card. So Leyline of the Void is the type of card where you wouldn't mind it being in your deck, but you're gonna need some answers to whatever type of hate John has on the other side of the board. And Paradoxical Outcome, one of the few decks that can actually just race right along with Dredge. So most decks in the format are really going to need some type of sideboard hate in their opener or access to it with card draw or tutors in order to really hang with Dredge, whereas a Storm list like this can just go ahead and implement its own game plan, and that could easily be fast enough. Tormod's Crypt, a very solid option for Paradoxical Outcome. Cost 0, which goes along with the whole theme they've got going. 0 mana, tribal. You've got all your Moxes, and might as well throw some more 0 costs in there to return with the PO. Even if you don't need to use it to disrupt your opponent at the time, you can just start picking it up and putting it down, drawing cards each time and building Storm. And 10 feels like a very small number in Vintage when you're looking at building Storm. So many quality enablers. Having played Storm so much in Legacy, sometimes getting to 10 really a bit of a struggle, and that's why cards like Empty the Warrens are played, where you kind of stall out at 7, 8, 9, and you just make a ton of goblins instead. But 10, a lot of the time, Storm players will literally stop keeping track of Storm. Of course, the main reason to keep that track going, however, is the super powerful card Mind's Desire. That can just allow for you flipping literally your entire deck. I've done that many times in Vintage. Probably my favorite build really of using Mind's Desire was an Oath deck back in the day. Would Oath up Academy Rector to get Bargain. That was a spicy deck from way back. And yeah, the ability to basically build a storm count so high that Mind's Desire flips your entire library was totally doable. And John looking like he has a very strong hand here. I got some unmasks going on. And that was a consideration. So that didn't have Bazaar, but what it did have is double unmask, Gurmag Angler, and a colored mana. Still just not going to be good enough there, though. Gurmag's going to be way too difficult to cast. No real way of getting anything else into the graveyard. You don't want to be unmasking yourself. Perhaps would have been good enough. That could have been one of the rare keeps where it would have been worthwhile if it was exactly Cabal Therapy with that land, so I could Cabal Therapy a Dredger into the graveyard as well as multiple unmasks on John. But here he's actually opening up on Mox Opal into Soul Ring, a couple of unlimited Moxes. Black and colorless. Lion's Eye Diamond, so 5 mana. 5 artifacts, I should say, and a fetch. It's a dangerous situation right here. A tutor means that Lion's Eye Diamond essentially becomes a Black Lotus, would be able to be cracked in response to the searching of a card like Demonic Tutor. So John with an incredible start here. Exactly why you want to be playing this type of deck. And he does, in fact, have exactly that, Demonic Tutor Hellbent. Getting 3 blue, and Paradoxical Outcome is going to be able to start firing off here. So John's going to get 4 cards. Going to have 1 blue floating after this PO. The ability to chain these together, really what makes the deck so busted. Able to abandon traditional combo-centric cards like Dark Ritual and really just load up on permanents like Mox Opal to be able to continually use your mana base, allowing you to play a bit of a control role in certain matchups with all of your Force of Wills. And there it is, Mind's Desire. This is going to be for a bunch. We had 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, it looks like. 11 or 12. Vampiric Tutor coming off the top. He could play Vampiric Tutor right now, unless he has instant speed card drawing, though. That's not going to work out as he'd like. And of course, play any of these cards as they're coming off the top at instant speed, but there's a bunch of Mind's Desires still on the stack. Technically, that Mind's Desire not in the graveyard yet. The original copy, the last one to resolve. And lethal already achieved here with that Vampiric Tutor because of the instant speed card draw with Paradoxical Outcome. And so many Mox Opals. Plenty of black mana. And that's really the only necessary thing at this point. The storm count is plenty high. Just going to need double black for Tendrils. And that's something that Mox Opal helps out with so much. But even without that, he does happen to have Mox Jet. So John, absolutely just choose your own adventure however he wants to win this game from here. And he is just going to shortcut it right to the Tendrils with plenty of lethal. He's seen my hand and knows that I've got no way to stop him. Making sure his accounting is all squared away here. Gonna fire off that Paradoxical Outcome. Might as well draw 7 more cards. All of those artifacts coming down, just piling on for a ton of lethal Tendrils copies towards my dome. Going to be on Dredge to try and hold serve here. Going first, very relevant in these type of matchups. The difference in between being able to unmask and Cabal Therapy up front to try and slow down the Storm deck, as well as setting a faster clock. And of course, Paradoxical Outcome deck really going to be able to leverage going first with having those explosive draws. Or get down Graveyard Hate. Cards like Grafdigger's Cage, looks like he was sleeving that up. But of course, Tormod's Crypt as well. Grafdigger's Cage, a really powerful tool against Oath as well. A very common sideboard card in Vintage, perhaps more common than it is in Legacy, because of Oath of Druids being so good. What'll end up happening there is the Oath player will go until they get a Gristlebrand, and then they'll end up drawing the Gristlebrand for turn, which is pretty decent when combined with Show and Tell. You can actually play through Grafdigger's Cage using Show and Tell, because you are able to essentially tutor for your Gristlebrand by using your Oath. Dredge here, using Serum Powder. Gonna try and find that Bazaar. Every time you're using Serum Powder, just a little bit more likely. Removing 10% or so of your deck from the game. Not a ton of time left. Plenty of time for these decks. But this match actually taking a bit of time here. Bazaar Baghdad is found. Looks like a Cabal Therapy in hand with some black cards. Definitely worth trying to draw into Unmask. Not finding it. It looks like the top card was seen there. Just going to do a quick shuffle there as the rest of the library was random. See what type of opener John has this time around. Can it match last game? Turn 1 wins. Something a lot of people think is common to Vintage. It's not nearly as common as you would think, though. Even though the power level is so high. And Mock Sapphire starting out somewhat innocently here. John really thinking through his line, it would appear. Now we see Tolarian Academy, one of the strongest cards in the deck. Really gives a huge mana boost. Get that ball rolling. Paradoxical Outcomes. There's Mana Vault, Tolarian Academy. Preordain with 1 blue floating. Perhaps Emerald on top? No, Underground Sea? Both on the bottom. Either way, not good enough cards. Lotus Petal comes down. A blue floating. Would be a totally reasonable time for a PO if he has it. Drawing 3 here and resetting this board would be totally fine. Looks like he actually has Demonic Tutor. Now just 3 mana floating here. So Time Twister could be an option. That's actually where John's going to go right to. He is not looking to play defense with Demonic Tutor. He is looking to jam a Time Twister. Super important that Dredge got to go first here. Twister, an amazing card against Dredge for so many reasons. Of course, if John was able to play Twister going first, that would have meant I would have had a random 7 cards. And of course, we know Dredge is so focused, laser focused on having that Bazaar Baghdad, that undoing that mulliganing phase, it can be really damaging. The other upside of Time Twister is it removes the graveyard. Not a big deal in this instance, because I hadn't had a chance to really build much of a graveyard. But it does set me back basically a full turn of dredging, which is not inconsequential. John has a full grip of 7 cards here. So during the upkeep, Gonna discard some cards, get a draw step Dredge. Looks like Mana Confluence. Gonna get Bloodghast. Nature's Claim is an option here. Kind of a tough call what you'd want to get rid of out of those permanents. I mean, Mox Sapphire definitely superior to the other Moxes. Mana Vault tapped right now, but probably the best in conjunction with the Paradoxical outcome. Netting more mana. A Mox. And there we go. PO is actually happening. 4 cards could be drawn here. You can turn it down to 3 with a Nature's Claim. And going after the colored mana. There is 3 blue floating. We'll see if that ends up being the correct call. Got a feeling it's likely incorrect, just because of the ease of this deck making blue mana. Grafdigger's Cage going to be a problem to a degree in terms of moving forward with the game plan. But 6 damage is on board. And John fetching. Looks like he's got Tinker. And Memory Jar in hand. So Tinker, not a ton of good targets once Grafdigger's Cage is down. If he does have something like Blightsteel Colossus, could have tinkered for Blightsteel and then played the Grafdigger's Cage. But he's actually just going to go into hardcast Memory Jar territory. And cast a Wheel. So passing on Tinker. So Wheel of Fortune. Would have found a hand with Hollow One and Nature's Claim, but immediately started dredging. Continuing to dredge. Like running out of dredgers here. Definitely a question there about the best way to proceed with the wheel, because you're gonna want as many draws towards that Grafdigger's Cage removal as possible. Not a lot of forward momentum can happen while it's on the board. May have been better to just draw the 7. Of course, with John drawing 7 off of Wheel of Fortune and having access to Memory Jar this turn, he has access to 14 plus cards that he could be drawing. It's very likely he'd be able to wrap up the game here. Would actually consider it unlucky to not be able to. Does he have the Tendrils in hand? Oh, he does have the Tendrils in hand. And he's going to fire off Brainstorm. Looks like he could make an all-in play here of putting the Tendrils on top and then cracking Jar, hoping to get back up to 4 mana. He has a Storm count. But it looks like he's passing with a fistful of counter magic. Just 6 damage. It's a 4-turn clock. Not likely to be good enough there. Drawing into some dredgers, usually where you want to be, but not in this instance because of the Grafdigger's Cage. And really, even if there was artifact removal here, it is very likely that Memory Jar is the actual bigger threat. Ball Therapy being fired off here. Not going to be able to flash it back with Grafdigger's Cage on board. But that does draw Force of Will for John. It looks like Mystical Tutor is in his. Some interesting lines that he could take with the Memory Jar here. He could stack, go to his upkeep, play, or activate, put the Mystical Tutor on the stack, respond with Memory Jar, draw your 7, and then put your tutor target on top of the deck based off of whatever the heck you drew in your 7. He would have the tendrils in there based off of what he put back off of the Brainstorm. So he could, for example, get a PO and ensure lethal. That would definitely be a very clean line. And instead, we got a Merchant Scroll here, grabbing PO. And another Grafdigger's Cage. A whole lot of blue off of Academy now. Like 7 blue. And going to be drawing 7. Fearlessly pick up those Grafdigger's Cages. Right now, tapped out. No way of activating Bazaar or really taking advantage of the shields being down. Mox, Opal, and Chrome Mox. Go ahead and imprint for blue. There's the double black achieved with Underground Sea, Mox, Opal. So really, just as soon as he gets tendrils into his hand, this one's going to be over. Double Grafdigger's Cage. And it looks like we're going to go around this one more time. Another PO. Loading a ton of mana and drawing some more cards here. So while the shotgun win was declined with the Mystical Tutor route with cracking Memory Jar, still looking very, very good. There it is, DT, 4 Tendrils of Agony. Black mana available. Storm count is plentiful. And John taking it down, and we will now see him in the finals. That's all for this one. If you enjoyed the video, please help grow the channel by subscribing. You'll be notified when we upload new videos like Fast Effect, Double Speed Magic with commentary, or Untapped, our raw tournament gameplay. Thanks for watching.